welcome to another edition of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator at the School of Journalism and Mass Communications at KU. Hello and welcome to another episode of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator for the KU School of Journalism and Mass Communications. Today we are on episode 90. We are joined today by KU alum Dan Grainge, President of NEP U.S. Special League Capture. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So I know you're a KU alum. You do a lot with cutting edge, sports video technology. Kind of that first question, talk about how that technology has evolved since you were a student. Because it seems like you guys are always kind of pushing the envelope, more access, more angles.
Well, so back in the late 80s, there was nothing called digital, very few computers, and everything was big. Over the years, it just got smaller, easier to use, easier to put in different locations. We were able to get more and more creative as the years went by. So we really kind of jumped on the new technology trend to smaller, better, and easier to place. That really made a place for us in the industry for what we were doing.
And you really got on that trend really early in your career, because I know you graduated here from the late 80s. I think the year KU won the basketball title in 1988, Danny and the Miracles. I was a sophomore that year. So yeah, you really got on that trend pretty early. So you probably have seen a lot happen in that time.
There was a seminal event in 1994 and 1996, two of them. One was the World Cup in the U.S., and then was the 96 Olympics. What happened there was technology made a major leap, and again, leap as in smaller and more towards the digital side of things, and easier for us to use and put in unique locations. Prior to that, everything was quite large. It was tubes in cameras, and they went to then the digital kind of, pickup devices for these cameras. That allowed everything to get much, much smaller. We were able to capitalize that and put those new cameras in very unique locations that wouldn't have been available to us before that time. But it was really because of the money you spend on the Olympics and these other shows that allowed Sony and Panasonic and others to make the product do what we needed it to do.
So with that creative mindset, I mean, each year, each event, were you kind of always reevaluating, like, hey, I think we can do better, or there's something new we can do? I mean, were you always thinking of what's kind of that next great thing?
Yeah, really, some of it comes directly from us, and some of it comes from the people who are the producers, the directors, and they constantly have a wish list, right? And the wish list is always impossible. It's never real. It's always making something do something it can't do. But it turns out you wait long enough and a lot of these things can be done. From high-speed cameras that are shooting thousands of frames a second to cameras that you can put behind backboards and into pylons or wherever the technology leads. None of those things are possible the first go-round of the iteration, and then you start coming up with ways to make that happen. And over time, you gain people's confidence, and then they start coming to you. So the process actually gets a little easier over time because the ideas come flowing to you. They trust that you hit the mark this time, and you're going to be able to do it again. And again, we've been able to perform.
And I know you're in town, partly KU basketball game, senior day tomorrow against Arizona. And I believe some of your cameras will be at Allen Fieldhouse. Can you share with us where those cameras are going to be, or will we even see them? Are they so tiny?
they're not so tiny. They could be, but for the game, we have a permanent installation underneath the scoreboard for every KU game, every KU basketball game. That's women's, men's. That's volleyball, I believe, even takes that camera. And you could see it underneath the scoreboard if you look for it underneath there. And one of the students here is operating that out of the facility over there. So used all the time. We also have above the rim cameras that are used for major games, and those will be used as well. They might be slam cams or something of that nature as far as the name, but they showed all kinds of different aspects of the basketball game, but they'll also be here as well.
And you talked about having that kind of that student camera operator, but obviously backboards, probably robotics. How has that evolved over time too, now where you don't really have those manned cameras at a lot of those locations?
Yeah, so our niche has always been to put cameras where you can't put people. Whether it was inside NASCARs or in places where it's not safe, or places that are too small to fit a person, whatever the case may be, like underneath the scoreboard. we have had those unique capabilities to put things and cameras in these positions that tell a story, that aren't just gimmicks, that actually are used during the game and add to the game. We've had that capability for a long time to be able to see that use case and then make it happen with the technology that we have at our disposal.
Now, it's part of your responsibility. I mean, do you go to location at all these sites and make sure everything's up and running, the quality control, or do you have other people that kind of take care of that?
Quite honestly, now I have people for that. Back in the day, now we go back to 1989.
Okay.
From that time, for about 10 years, I would go out and I would do all of the travel and set up. We would have people back in the shop, get it ready, and then send it out to people like myself. But we had very, very few people at that time. And we would literally go out before the event to do a location scout to make sure it would work, and then we would go out to the event and actually set it up ourselves. Now we do almost 10,000 sporting events a year.
Oh, wow.
And so it is impossible, clearly, for a small group to go out. So we have freelancers, we have other staff personnel from other divisions that help us out, but mostly it's freelance staff.
Okay. And during your time as a student, I would assume you developed some video skills. What were you involved in as a student, like with student media or classes or outside of class?
We were internal. We would do different projects. It was really project oriented. I don't remember, other than KJHK, that there was a TV department back then. There was no Dole Hall. There's none of those.
I think it was 90.
So certainly there was no studio like this. Is amazing. That didn't exist. So I was involved in the radio side. I think like all broadcasters had to be at the time. Sometimes we would call games. We would go to a local high school game, or depending on the professor's connections there, we did different things. But it was nothing like it is today with the experiences that you come out that are really hands-on. This is amazing what we have capable to be able to do today.
And were you one of those kids that grew up fascinated by like sports and TV? I mean, did you see the potential for a career early in your life?
It was something that I always identified as a want, which was to be a part of sports. I liked news as well. I did work for CNN for a little bit out of college. That was the place you went from here, either to Topeka or to CNN, and I went to CNN. And worked with some of the people who are now stars. Maria Bartiromo was in Chicago at the time. Anyway, we did those types of tracks back in those days.
And I know before NEP, you had that long career with the Fletcher Group. And I think I saw a podcast somewhere else. The region you kind of partner with them, you wanted more an international feel to your. I mean, how has that really taken off with the brand?
Yeah. So our U.S. brand, we have probably 90% ownership. We have very few competitors, almost none, that do what we do specifically. And so where we needed to grow was internationally. And we partnered with NEP, this company that had the international footprint. And with that, we are now doing hundreds, if not thousands, of games internationally. So it really did expand our size. We tripled in size going with NEP, and things have been going very well. We continue to be able to innovate. They support us in that way, and things are going very well.
Can you share with us, if you can, the next big thing? Is there anything that I want to make this happen soon, technology-wise, or are you able to share that?
Yeah, really. Unfortunately, I'm going to say it, and it's going to create a buzzword that's out there, and it's AI.
AI.
So we are already involved with that, and it saves a ton of money not having a camera person behind every camera, mostly for things that are not the A game level. They're, I'll give you an example, tennis. We do the outer courts for tennis at all the majors. Wimbledon, for example, the US Open. There are all these people that none of us know that are doing the play-in games, the games that get to the big courts and they get to be famous. Those used to cost a lot of money to cover. What we did is invent a way to cover that without people on site, and AI tracks those players, interfaces with the cameras, pans and tilts, zooms and focuses, and you would never know that they're not manned. That is now continuing to many other sports. We're doing this for the dog show right now with the Westminster Dog Show.
Okay.
Brand new, just tested last month, And same idea. Before you get to the center ring, you have to whittle it down. There's thousands of animals that are involved, and they're on these outer rings. And so they still want to cover that because they want to know who that was that got from nothing up to the center ring and may have surprised us. So they want coverage. It's too much to cover with the traditional methods. So using AI, we're following a dog, we're following the judge, and we're following the handler, all with technology that recognizes each individual and follows them in an automated fashion. So that's really the new thing that we're doing, that we're involved with.
And you mentioned Wimbledon. Is your technology, or maybe it's another technology, that does like when the ball baseline, they slow-mo that. Is that part of your technology, or is that something different?
That's called Hawkeye.
Okay.
Hawkeye is owned by Sony.
Okay.
So we're very, very close. We work very closely with them.
Okay.
But no, that's a proprietary technology that they have.
Okay.
The interesting part there is when you see that replayed, that is not actually the ball. If you ever look at it, you'll see it's a graphic. So the ball is not actually what they're seeing. It is not a high-speed slowdown of the ball, which is what we do. We can show that in 1,000 frames. What you might see if we replayed it is that it was actually in
the ball
or out, and maybe not quite what it was. There is a lot of technology going on there, but that's all Hawkeye technology that's proprietary to them and Sony.
Can you kind of pinpoint that premier sporting event where your organization was really noticed, like, wow, there's tremendous potential? I mean, or did it just kind of evolve over time, or is it that one event where, wow, you really caught a lot of people's attention?
Two sports, and then the one you really make money on. So hockey and basketball were our bread and butter.
Okay.
So we did literally invent multiple cameras in the hockey and basketball space that did not previously exist. And that was by literally looking around and finding places to put cameras that seem obvious today, but were not placed before because of their size or whatever. Behind each goal judge for hockey,
right.
We use those cameras. They're absolute staples. At the red line, they're cameras that are almost every game. If you watch any hockey, you can see a camera right at center ice, and it's almost in the way of the game camera. It's in almost every shot, but that was never there before. And then for basketball, the above the rims, the slam cams, and again, obvious locations it seems, but until technology got small enough, we couldn't place them there. And what we did is we added high speed to those as well, so it really told a big story that was missing out of those events. And then where we make our real money is in NFL. That's where everybody makes their money, because innovation there goes a long way, and they can spend a lot of money to get it on the air. So we've taken all of that technology and moved it into pylons and different things in NFL and now even into college football, where they spend money on the big shows. So all the pylons you see in the replays are all done by our company.
Okay. Do you do much with drones at all?
Drones are privately owned normally because they have to be licensed.
Okay.
So what we do is provide the connectivity.
Okay.
And sometimes the camera, but not the literal flying drone.
Okay.
Many times it's our camera and then our RF technology, our wireless technology that connects that. I
know we're 5 years removed from the height of COVID. That was a unique time, I mean, across the world, especially with sports. I mean, they kept a lot of fans out of the arenas, and relied a lot on your cameras. What was that time like 5 years ago?
Well, it started off very bad. I was at a baseball game one day, outside game in March, spring training, and COVID hits, and I go to the game and said, "What's going on? Why aren't we having it?" They said, "Baseball's canceled.
Yeah.
Basketball has been canceled." How can you cancel an outside game?
Right.
How could you possibly cancel? It's too big to fail, the NCAA tournaments. So it started off bad for everybody. But what they quickly learned is now that people are at home, they need something to do. So we got back into TV faster than most other groups ramped up, with golf, NASCAR, baseball, basketball, without fans, of course. But what that allowed us to do is put cameras now where fans used to be. So for the NBA, as an example, the front row of an NBA game is the highest price seats you can have. Well, now we put a rail cam there, and we were going with the players in a very unique manner that could never be done normally because the people were there. All the cameras that are normally on the floor were replaced by robotic cameras, especially cameras from my group. because they wouldn't allow humans to be interfacing with the NBA players. Possibly they could have gotten COVID. Well, again, someone has to benefit from COVID, and our company did. It was a record year. We never made more money than at that time, because instead of doing 1 or 2 cameras on a show, we might have done 10 or 20.
Wow.
It was amazing. So a lot of innovation, a lot of things that did stick eventually and that we're still using today, but that was a big time for us.
And you mentioned NASCAR, so you have those cameras like kind of on the steering wheel or maybe dashboard, or I don't know how many cameras you can get in a car like that.
They allow 4.
Wow.
We could put 100 on there, but they allow 4. It's all weight restricted, and so only 10 cars have full cameras. The other 20 or 30 cameras have a dummy weight in there if they're not on. So every week they sell sponsorship, and sometimes it's the same sponsor week after week. A lot of times it's a one-off. It's their show. It's the Food City, whatever event, and the Food City car will have it. And then the next show, that car won't have it, and somebody else will trade. But so they go in and out and they change. But as many as 4 per car, and we do all of that as well.
And the drivers probably don't even really know they're there. I mean,
no, they do know they're there.
Okay.
Here's why: they only talk to the driver who has a camera inside.
Oh,
so
true.
if you
Good
ever
point.
see them going
Good point.
around the track, right, and they're talking to the driver, you got Clint Boyer or whoever saying, "Hey, how's it going?" Dale Earnhardt Jr. Talking to them, they always happen to have a camera on their face.
So they know.
So it's always going to be one of the 10 cameras. It's not going to be just one of the random. So yeah, there's a little more thought to that that might beat the eye.
Hey, well, thanks for the insight, Dan. Before you have to go, I always like to close with a fast 5.
Yes.
Hope there are no surprises here. So in your opinion, what is the best sport for slow motion video? Is there one that just is better than the rest, or are there a couple that work well?
Well, there's a couple, but one of them would be baseball.
Baseball.
Because baseball can actually show the seams of the ball.
Yeah.
It can show the compression of the ball and the bat. You see the bat breaking, all in super slow motion. Actually, at 6,000 frames a second, you can see a sound wave come off of the bat, and it's amazing. Then would be golf, would be the next one, because the sport is so fast, and you see the ball explode out of the sand trap, or you see the tee come up. It just tells a great story to see how much is going on when that compression happens, when that ball hits.
I guess kind of a follow-up to that one. I should have asked this sooner. Are you a fan of instant replay? You must be.
Clearly, yes. We love instant replay. There should be more instant replay, more time for instant replay. But no, it really does tell a great story, in all honesty. There are sports that don't allow it. Our world of soccer doesn't allow a lot of replays, so you don't see our cameras in there a lot because of that. There's not a way to do it, but all these other sports are really timed off of replays, are part of it.
Throughout your life, before KU or professionally, do you have one favorite sports image? Either that's a still photo, or maybe there's a video that you just have watched over and over. Is there anything like that has captured your attention?
Well, it would always. I can't make this up. It would always have to be, for me, my favorite sport is Kansas basketball. College basketball, we could just go bigger on that. But there are multiple events and things that have happened where we have covered the sport so long. We have dunks from people from many years ago going over others. It's just interesting to see how high they get. Their knees are up by the basket, and they come in, they do a slam dunk, and it's just an amazing replay when these things happen. So I love those.
So Michael Jordan might be in there somewhere?
Michael Jordan would be in there. The Danny
Dominic
Mannings.
Wilkins?
There's all kinds of them. Blake Griffin, actually, in the NBA side, sold our camera. Literally, we had been trying this camera many weeks, and it was okay. But Blake Griffin comes and jumps over somebody, over their head.
Wow.
He wipes them out, slam dunks the ball, and he looks right at the camera. He knew it was there. He played to it. We got the replay, and ESPN, that was on that show, said we have to have that every game.
Nice.
So yeah.
Do you have a favorite moment from your time at KU, either in the classroom, outside of the classroom, sports related? I mean, I
happened to graduate when we won the national championship. So that was a fantastic time. But also in those times, without cell phones and other things, people were very approachable. So Larry Brown was someone who people knew. and he was just a great guy back in those days. So I do remember, being a part of that and how exciting that is, and now how hard it is to kind of be a part of it because it's so big. But those are times that I really remember fondly back.
Now, were you at Kemper Arena, or did you watch it here somewhere in Lawrence?
The bar was called Gammons.
Oh yeah, I remember Gammons. Yeah.
And now closed, back by the old pizza shuttle, which now has moved. So I got all. So we were at Gammons during that game. I was not at Kemper Arena, but I was doing camera for just KU, footage-wise, for all the home games that year. And so one other moment was Archie Marshall came out on senior night, as I believe, and everybody gave him his space. The other team played along. He shot a three-pointer. I think he airballed it.
I remember that. I was at that game. I thought if that was going to go in, that place was going
not
to
even close.
erupt.
Well, I was down on the court next to, with a camera, and those are moments you just never forget, and that's what sells you. That's the final sell to say, this is what I'm going to do forever. It just takes one of those things to happen, and that was it for me.
So did you end up celebrating on Jayhawk Boulevard? That's where I was after they won. I don't think you were out there.
I was. Now, I was also shooting footage for a Jayhawk TV
so you're working,
event. Yes, I had a 3/4 inch camcorder on my shoulder. I had the camera. I was, one-man band out there. I have footage. People high-fiving the police officers, climbing the light poles. It was unbelievable. I'm sure I didn't drink too much apparently at Gammon, so I kept myself together, and after that was out and having a great time videotaping all of it.
Well, back then, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think people knew what to do. Like, I know they were in the Final Four in '86. I think I was at a party like North Lawrence. It's like, now what do we do? And then everybody just kind of came to campus. So
my footage I did that night is so iconic, and I am certain it must be somewhere. I'm sure we could call that up during this event. But you think about it, like these times just pass you by, and now they don't happen all the time.
No.
And that was quite an event.
That wasn't a deal.
Yeah.
Is there a KU class or classes that you feel you apply to your profession or your day-to-day life? Is there that one class that has really kind of stuck with you?
Well, again, it was called radio and TV, I think, back in my day. But what I was always impressed with was the hands-on approach. You're still getting that today, even more. It's so much beyond. But I can tell you, in working in the early days, I would come out and I would know so much more than anybody else who didn't have that hands-on training. They may have been in journalism or communications, but they did not know how to turn on a camera or shoot in a wide, medium, tight type of story. They just didn't know how to do those things. And coming out of here, I was far ahead where others were. And that was, again, working at CNN and other places where they got other good people, but from different areas of the country that didn't have that background. So I always appreciated that from KU, that hands-on approach. And we modeled it off of a station in Wichita. I know that.
Nice.
That was a big goal of Max Utzler's at the time.
So last question, Fast Five. Walk-up songs are a big thing in sporting arenas. So if Dan Grainge needed to enter a building with a walk-up song, do you have one that's going to be playing?
Mine is a little bit, yes, I do have one, and it isn't quite the greatest story. So once you get into this business, it's about travel, right? Okay. So my walk-up song that I've had, and people know this, is Cats in the Cradle.
Oh, right? Nice.
I was traveling. I was never home. I had a young son, and it was terrible. I'm out on the road constantly doing this. So eventually we could be here, right? But you don't see that back 30 years ago. And Cats in the Cradle was playing at an arena, and I thought, my gosh, I'm that guy. I'm traveling. So that's always been like a theme.
Great story.
I've held near and dear to me as both as motivation and as balance to know you got to get home and you got to spend time with the family and get it right. So you could do both ends. So that's why it's always meant something to me.
Well, Dan, I appreciate your time. I know you got a busy schedule, and I always like to close with a cheers. And cheers to your great career. Thanks, Dan.
Appreciate it. Thank you.